We're living in a new age of absolutism.
Absolutely.
And of cancelling.
Yes, and the idea, as somebody says, that a university should be a safe place, and you want to say, all right, let's take away everyone's passports, because you know what happens? If you travel, your mind broadens. Well, we don't want that. Passport, please. We want you to just have one set of values and be completely aware of any other set, because then you'll be what's called very narrow-minded.
Tell me about the laws, because I know you've spoken out about them, and you're not the only English comedian of great note that we've enjoyed. As I said earlier, we keep...
I thought I was the only great comedian.
Well, you're the greatest. What else can I say to
Flatterer.
Yeah, but well, I saw a survey the other day that says Fawlty Towers remains the most popular comedy series.
It's in the top 4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're being modest. I saw it was number 1.
But I don't think you can grade things like that. It's almost binary thinking again. There are certain things that are exceptionally good. That's why I think the awards are slightly silly. I wish each year they'd say there's 5 films of quite extraordinary quality. Here's 5 awards for the 5 films. Do you see what I mean? So
I do.
One slightly better than the other.
And you've got to allow for people's different tastes. That's quite legitimate
as well. Of course.
But the point I was going to make is that you and many others, Rowan Atkinson, for example, but I think Constantine Kisson, I've heard the same thing, say that it's very hard to be funny in Britain today because people take offence and the law allows the most extraordinary
Yes, I don't know so much about the law. I mean, the whole thing's a mess. I think that the greatest problem has been this business about offending. I remember, Monty Python used to offend people, but the Director General at that time, his name was Carlton Green, he was the brother of Graham Greene, the novelist. He was Director General, and he said there are some people one would wish to offend. Well, it's a wonderful attitude. Just because I'm offended by something, it doesn't mean that I'm some poor, helpless victim who's been beaten to a pulp by somebody's joke. What it means is that I'm chosen to be a victim. That all those great qualities that the Stoics tried to inculcate are past. Regarding Stoicism and putting up with difficulties without complaining, that's gone. Now we've all got to be victims. And it's very, very easy to be a victim,
Well, I agree.
In fact, I think there should be a television show where people compete against each other to see who has been victimized the most.
Well, now you've cost me my train of thought.
Sorry, well, it doesn't matter. We can always edit this bit.
It does seem to me, though, that this inability now to laugh at ourselves and to take offence flies in the face of something that, if I'm really honest, there have been times when I've had to learn something painful about myself, and I could have reacted 2 ways. I could have said, "Oh, I'm a victim. You've hurt me. Go away. I'll shut you down. I'll cancel you. I'll try and do whatever." Or, "Gosh, that hurt, but there's an element of truth in it."
Well, that's what a real Christian would do. See, what instead of immediately batting the criticism away, he would think, "Is that true? Is that true of me? How true is it? Not is it true, black or white." True or untrue, but to what extent is there truth in that? And people find that very, very difficult to do. They don't really want to be criticized. And what the mistake that the woke people say is that all humor is critical. Not puns.
Yeah.
They're not critical, but any kind of Fawlty Towers humor, any kind of film or stage humor, because you don't laugh at perfect people. If someone is kind and wise and gentle, there's nothing funny about them. It's when they fall below that and become greedy or lustful or spiteful, that's when they become funny. So all humor is critical, but the question is, how is the criticism conveyed? If we tease friends, it's done with affection. You could just point something out to a friend by teasing him about it, but if it's done with affection, yes.
Or did in my day.
That's right.
Probably in your
Whenever
day.
with your family or your best friends, there's a lot of affectionate teasing. Yeah. Affectionate teasing is actually a bonding mechanism because it's saying to people, particularly like the English, who can't say anything really loving or affectionate to people without getting embarrassed. So in England, we insult someone because what we're basically saying, I could never say this to someone I didn't love because it would be so rude, but I can say it to you because I love you. It's a bonding mechanism. Do you see what I mean?
Oh, well, that's Australian as well.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same.
That's right. Well, the same sense of humour, which is great.
And sometimes, you watch Australians and think they've got to have a couple of beers at the bar before they even get to that point.
Yeah.
But it still happens.
Well, then people begin to loosen up, and as they relax, they get more humorous and get more creative, and everything gets better. What I wanted to say was, because there are people who are unkind or who become unkind under certain circumstances, and they do nasty teasing, that's awful. We don't do that. Yeah. It's not supposed to be funny. It certainly isn't affectionate. It's actually trying to hurt people's feelings, which is a dreadful thing to do. So that kind of teasing, the mean teasing, the non-humorous, non-affectionate, that's out. But the woke people don't understand the difference between the two because it requires understanding of differing contexts, and they can't do that.
And so what happens then is they run for the law book. They tighten up the laws.
That's right.
And so then we tie ourselves up in
not a lot of humour in the law.
No. Well, it can end up restricting humour, which is, as you've just really very effectively painted, is a very important part of free speech.
Huge important.
It shines lights on things.
And it lifts something in us. It moves us to a better part of ourselves for a few minutes or half an hour, maybe an afternoon. I mean, I'm very touched with how many people have told me that when they have a bad day at the office, they come back and the first thing they do, make a cup of tea or coffee and watch an episode of Fawlty. And half an hour later, their life's all right again. So I'm also a therapist.
I hadn't quite thought of you in that way, but